UCF went 4-8 last season, but they're much better than 4 wins.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us up, turn us on. We'll turn it out here at Locked On UCF. Today, the show, we're talking about Scott Frost and the 4-win team that he inherited. Are they better than 4 wins? I certainly think so. He also made some comments in the media that we're going to talk about today. We're going to play some clips for you guys, and we're going to talk about how hungry this team is this season, as well as freshmen competing for the jobs and how comfortable the head coach is with freshmen competing. Before we get to those comments, let's jump right in here on that 4-win total last season. UCF went 4-8 last season. A lot of very, very disappointing losses. Marquee win that could have been on their record last year was Arizona State, the defending Big 12 champs. Scott Frost has got to get it done this year. And when I say he's got to get it done, doesn't mean he has to win a championship. It doesn't mean he has to go undefeated. It means that he has to get the most out of what he has. I think most people will agree. Last year, Gus didn't do that. He didn't get the most out of what he had. As a matter of fact, he got less than 0 out of a team that was much more talented than a 4-8 record. There are a lot of people that I've talked to in the Big 12 media, on the UCF beat, that feel like getting to 4 or 5 wins is going to be a struggle this year. It very may well be, but I think that this team is much more talented than that. And during his press conference, Scott Frost talked about surprising some people, which I love that tone from the head coach. I like that he thinks that they're going to surprise some people this year. You need marquee wins on the schedule. UCF comes in to the month of August ranked 71st in recruiting. And one thing that will turn that around is results on the football field. In my discussions with Kane Archer and Dante Carr, it was honesty that won them over. It was a solid plan for their talent. It was an honest evaluation of where they're at that won these guys over. It wasn't money. And I'll tell you what, if they're the QB whisperers that we think they are, Dante Carr and Kane Archer are going to be stars at the P4 level. They're going to be stars in the Big 12. I can't wait to see what he does with them. It starts with development, though. It starts with that development piece. You've got to squeeze every ounce of talent out of the guys that you have and make them stars. And if you can do that, if you can show that you are a good steward over the talent that you do get, I think you'll see them get even better talent. That's what he did his first go round at UCF. They whooped the crap out of an Auburn team that, pound for pound probably had more talent than UCF. They didn't have more heart, though. They didn't have a better game plan. And on that day, they didn't have the better coach. The better coach was Scott Frost. Can he recreate that sort of magic in his second go round? College football has changed. It's not the same college football that it was, in 2017 when he was at UCF. It's changed. Money is run amok. People are pretty openly cheating at this point. And if you're Scott Frost, you've got to find a way to instill a belief in the money people that your program is a good investment for the future. So what does that look like? Is it 6 wins? Is it 7 wins? Is it 8 wins? I think you can sell that with 6 wins in year 1. You got to have some marquee wins on the schedule to make that happen, though. So, what are those wins? Well, when you look at UCF's schedule for 2025, there are definitely some opportunities here. I think it starts at North Carolina, September 20th. Bill Belichick comes to town. He's got more Super Bowl rings than the Super Bowl itself. Taking them down would be a significant accomplishment. Your next opportunity where you maybe don't need a win is the very next week at Kansas State. A lot of people have them tabbed as favorites to win the Big 12. If you can take down Kansas State or hang in with Kansas State, I think that shows what what you need to see if you're a money person and you want to invest in this program. Can he field a competitive team with the top of the Big 12 by week 4, September 27th, UCF at Kansas State? Other opportunities on this schedule to maybe show what they have. I think that Baylor game stands out on November 1st. Sawyer Robertson is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year. He was a 3,000-yard passer last season. He's got a big play arm, and they're going to score points. If you're UCF, taking them down in their house in Waco might send a statement. It might make a statement. You've got Texas Tech. You're at Texas Tech. This is a pretty brutal road schedule. You're at Texas Tech. They spend like $30 million in the portal or something like that. November 15th. There's an opportunity there. And then you close your season with BYU. Now, Jake Retzlaff is not there, but this is still going to be a solid football team. So I think it represents an opportunity for UCF to show what they have. But look, to show what you've got to reach those goals, you've got to be hungry. Scott Frost was asked a question about being hungry for a chance. We're going to get to that comment right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. When I'm on top of my hydration, I know everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is a doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3x the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head on over to dripdrop.com and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Stay hydrated with Drip Drop. Hungry for a chance. How hungry is this team? Scott Frost was asked a question at his pre-fall camp press conference about how hungry this team is. Let's listen to what Scott Frost had to say, and we'll be right back.
Toting the rock this year.
Coach, I feel like a big emphasis that you made is looking for guys who are hungry for a chance, and that's what this team is built on. I mean, just talk about the complications possibly after the season of retaining these guys after they get the opportunity, how you build that culture to keep them here in Orlando.
Yeah, I'm mad at you for even bringing up a transfer portal right now. I don't even want to think about that. That was not a fun period in my life, and I think that's the case for most coaches without speaking for them. A lot's going to depend on where these rules land. Not to get into that rabbit hole, but I really appreciate Ryan Seeley and some people in government that are trying to get a handle on this thing and put some guardrails around it. I said that it's a press conference, but when this whole thing started, it was supposed to be NIL and not pay for play. And we went zooming by that in about 6 months. And it was only 2 or 3 years ago when Ryan Day made news by saying that he needed $13 million a year to compete. From what I hear now, there's teams spending $40 and $50 million. So I don't know where it stops unless we get some guardrails around it. And I think college football will be a better place if it's equitable and everybody has the same amount to spend. And quite frankly, that'd be a lot more fun job for me, because then it comes down to how well do you evaluate, how well do you decide what portion of your salary cap goes to this position and that position, and you build a team. And that would make it for a fun sport. So I appreciate the people that are pushing it in that direction. And I don't know what it's going to look like come January. In fact, I don't even know if they've decided when the transfer portal is going to be next year. So we got to stay light on our feet, but I'm not worried about that right now. I'm worried about trying to make this team good. And if we have a lot of players that play well that other people want, that means we probably had a pretty good season.
If we have a lot of players that play well that other people want, it pretty much means we had a good season. Scott Frost there being asked a question about players being hungry for a chance, and how kind of alluding there to how the money changes the equation in terms of hunger for that next level. Does NIL kill that hunger, that passion, that to get to the next level, to get to the NFL, to get to that NFL paycheck, for whatever reasons. Some guys, it's a dream for them. Others, they're just trying to make ends meet for their family. And the NFL was and is the ultimate goal for every college football player. But you've got to stay hungry to get there. And every coach's challenge moving forward will be keeping their team focused and motivated on that goal when you're giving kids unlimited resources in college to focus on other things. It's going to take next level focus. Universities are going to have to provide resources to student athletes to help keep them from, quite honestly, spending their money on dumb stuff and losing focus on the goal, which is winning football games and getting to representing UCF in the National Football League. That's got to be the goal. That's got to continue to be the goal if you're Scott Frost. If you're not producing those type kids, man, that's got to be what the job's about. So it'll be interesting to watch UCF in this first and second year. I'm going to take you guys back to an interview that we did with Kane Archer and Dante Carr, 2 2026 QB commits. Both guys said that money wasn't a factor in their commitment. Now, I know what some people are going to say when they're listening to this. They're going to say, oh, well, those are just 3-star guys. No, man, like I'm telling you, there was potentially money on the table for both of these guys at other schools. They chose UCF. And Kane Archer went as far to say that they never even talked money. Money never even came up. It was all, here's where we see your game, and here's how we feel like we can develop you into a starting quarterback at the P4 level. Dante Carr said, the center of the conversation in recruiting for him was about where he needs to go to be a P4 quarterback. That's amazing to hear from an 18-year-old kid about to transition into college. So we didn't talk money. What he told him was, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you're there yet, but we see you as a quarterback, and here are the things that we feel like you need to do to get there. We're going to help you do that. Honesty. You can still win on traditional tenets of recruiting. And contrary to popular belief, it's not all money. Not every kid is moved by, a potential paycheck. What struck me about Dante Carr and Kane Archer is both of these guys just want to win. They just want to get better. They just want to be coached by somebody who believes in their talent and can help them get to that next level. If that's what's driving them, UCF's going to be in a great place. And let me tell you, where that hunger shows up, it shows up in the fourth quarter versus Kansas State on the road. And they've got the guy who took the big paycheck, and you've got the guy who's been busting his tail because he wasn't picked first, and he feels like he has something to prove. Do not underestimate how powerful a motivator that can be for UCF athletes that you have over other schools. I referenced that 2017 game versus Auburn. Auburn came in pompous, man. They came in overconfident, and they got run off the field by guys who, quite frankly, just wanted it more. And they won't admit that. They definitely won't admit that, but they got beat by a team that wanted it more. That was better coached. They had a chip on their shoulder. UCF had a more powerful motivator in that game because the game wasn't beneath them. Auburn thought that bowl game was beneath them. And they got whooped. So I think that if you're Scott Frost, you can lean on that in year one and really, really make some things happen. But look, that's not the only question he was asked. He was asked about freshmen competing. And, freshman playing may be a key part of the job. We'll talk about what he had to say there right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at GameTime. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where GameTime comes in. GameTime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Game time. What role will freshmen play in UCF's first season under Scott Frost? He was asked this question about freshmen competing. We're going to listen to what he had to say, and we'll be right back.
At the end of the day.
Coach, you mentioned there's not a lot of returning production on offense, especially even with receiver. Are you comfortable with the idea of freshmen competing for starting spots on the team?
Absolutely. I tell the guys all the time, I don't care if guys are from America or somewhere else or the North or the South, if they're red, white, black, blue, purple, if they're freshmen or seniors, or if they're getting paid a lot or a little, we're playing the best player. And if the best players are 18-year-old freshmen, so be it. We'll learn with them and compete with them. So I think we have a good feel for certain positions, who the lead dogs are going to be, but every position is a competition. Receiver is kind of one I point to that's a microcosm of the whole team. I think we have a lot of talent at receiver. It's very unproven. We don't have a lot of returning production, but I know we have guys that can do it. And how quickly those guys go from talented players to good players is going to say a lot about how quickly we win.
Open a competition at every single position, and pointing Scott Frost singling out receivers there, saying, hey, we don't have a lot of returning production, but he feels like they have guys that can do the job, and how quickly those guys become good players will have a lot to say in how the season goes. Scott Frost there on freshmen competing. He's very comfortable with the idea, and quite frankly, he's going to have to be. In year one, you just got to get the best players on the field. With the portal now, the expectations of program turnaround are a lot shorter. No longer are we waiting 4 or 5 years for program building. By year 3, if your team is not showing that they are on a clear path to winning, you're going to be on the unemployment line. That's today's college football. You've got to win, and you've got to win fast. You've got to evaluate better than your peers. You've got to develop better than your peers. And then eventually you have to recruit better than your peers because you're putting a better product consistently on the field every single Saturday. That's where Scott Frost is at right now. He's got to make this thing happen. And in year one, all you need to do is show proof of concept. Getting young guys time and then retaining those players over time. There's a shift happening in college football that I think everybody needs to be aware of. If these cap rules become enforceable, the days of stacking top 5 classes are going to be over. What you're going to see is you're going to see cycles where schools are spending more money on player retention over player acquisition, which is going to leave the door open for schools like UCF to step in those off years and snatch top tier talent. If you can win with that talent, then your challenge will be making sure that those guys come back. This is why UCF moving to the Big 12 is so important, because you are now in a Power 4 conference where if you win your conference, you will not be left out of the college football playoff. You can accomplish every single thing you set out to do as a college football player at UCF. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because it lessens the likelihood that a guy is going to have a breakout season and then jump for another school. Why? Dance with the one who brought you. You're in the Big 12 already. You can win championships here. You're on national TV here. You're playing against some of the best in college football here. If you can accomplish all that here and get paid, there's no reason to jump. There's no reason to go anywhere else. There's no reason for you to go anywhere else but here to Locked On UCF for all your UCF news. Guys, that's it for another great edition of Locked On UCF. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. For your next listen, go check out our friends at The Portal Show. Our guy, Brian Smith, has the latest in portal rumors, signings, all the going-ons in college football. He's on it. You can find him on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find us here tomorrow on Locked On UCF.